Right.
Far away. Go on.
Okay. Good morning, tutor and partners. This is a short interview for my English teacher. He is Armando. Good morning, Armando.
Hi, good morning, Juan.
Good morning. This is a short interview. Let's go. What do you think is the relationship between language and culture?
Yes. Well, in my opinion, language and culture are very well related, are very close related. I mean, language also depends on the culture. Okay. In fact, to learn a language, you need to know, you have to get to know about the culture of that region, area, geographical features, and things. So it is a very close relationship between language and culture. It depends on how people behave. It depends on the way of life, what people do, what people are like, the weather conditions. That also influences the language and how people react as well. So it's very much close. It's a very close relationship between language and culture. So to learn a language, you need to get to know about the culture because it's going to give you a lot of information, why people do things, why they react like that, and that accounts for their behavior as well.
So, so it's necessary connect language with a culture. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
And that's
Thank you.
why, just to give an example, English language is one, right? But then again, you have English from Canada, American English, British English, English from New Zealand, from Australia. It's English, but the
That is
way
true.
people use the language, the way people speak, expressions, uh, depending on the context, that's going to come up because of where they live. Okay, so it
Okay.
depends where they live. It depends. Why British people have a tea time at 5? Why is that? So that's because that's British English. That's British culture. That's the way it is. And in my opinion, to get to know, to get to understand British English, you've got to get to know. You have to understand about English sense of humor, for example.
Thank you, Armando.
Okay.
The second, the second question is, what is the influence of the culture in the process of the foreign language process?
Can you repeat the question again, please?
Okay. What is the influence of the culture
Mhm.
in the process of a foreign language process?
Yeah. Then again, culture influences the way we speak. In England, for example, in the UK, we have English from Manchester, from Norwich, from Liverpool, Oxford, Cambridge, even London, southeast London, okay, EastEnders. Um, it influences how you are going to use the language, even for pronunciation, connected speech. It's important. It's very relevant in the process of learning a language, how culture influences on it. It's
Yes,
very, very important.
I agree with you. The, the next question is, which culture expression do you know countries have strong language?
Can you repeat the question again?
Okay,
It's not that clear to me.
okay. Which culture expression do you know countries have strong language?
Um, maybe music. I think music can be an example. Plays, um, such as Shakespeare language, for example. I mean, the, the, the language of Shakespeare, right? That might be a cultural expression for what the British Council do in countries, in different countries. providing process and activities, how to teach English. So I think there's a variety of expressions with the music, with cultural expressions. I think that must be one of the ways, one of those that language use to introduce a language or an expression into different countries and the role it plays on the process of learning English or learning a language, could be any language.
Okay. The next question is, what do you think it is important to have an oral tradition in a country?
What do you think is what do you think?
What do you think it is important to have an oral tradition in a country?
Okay. Well, this is based on speaking is one of the ways. I mean, it's one of the skills. It's a way of expressing. It's a way of showing the culture of a particular place. And oral speaking, telling stories, storyteller, whether it is true or innate. It's important to communicate to other regions in the same country or to other countries, facts, what the story is about, legends. Legends are people, people from the past, stories for children, even for adults, scary stories, or fairy tales. Okay, they all combine to let us know what what is the what was that place like, geographical features, showing strange potential aspects, uh, rich in culture, soil, land production. So that story can tell, can provide a picture of how that region, that place, that city, that town was, and how it is now compared to the present time.
Okay, I I can see the tradition is very important for the process learning English is very important, or any language, yeah, any
Because,
idiom.
yeah, in any other language, because these oral expression provides inputs to understand more about the place, to make a comparative picture with English from here, English from there, and other places as well. And then the linguistics and the animation, the fiction, and the reality combines to express in a book, in a reading, or a story.
Okay, thank you. The next question is important, is very important. Look, what do you think? Do we teach language using culture, or do we teach culture using language?
Yeah, this is what we call CLIL. CLIL is content language integrated learning. Content language integrated learning. Um, CLIL is important, very extremely important. I mean, in my opinion, you have to use the culture to teach language. Okay, when you are an English learner, you should use CLIL. Okay, you should use mathematics, you should use geography, you should use science and social studies to teach the language. It's not that easy, but it's important because you are using original context to learn the language. And then again, that tells you how important it is to learn a language based on culture. to learn a language based on culture. Okay? And when you go to social studies and languages, then you can see what this region, what this country, what these people, what this society is about. Okay? Economic, geographic features are important when you're learning a language for you to understand, uh, well, what are the job opportunities in this country? Or do I fit in this country? Okay? It's not just a fact, because it is not just a fact of learning a language, learning vocabulary, or knowing how to pronounce. More importantly, okay, is to communicate, to deal with situations, to know how to be quiet, how to listen, and to look into other people's eyes when they are talking. It's not the same when you are talking, when you're making trading or doing business with a Japanese man, woman, compared to a German woman or man or an American. So more importantly is to understand the rules of the society, the rules of the other side. Okay, that's even much more important. Okay, even if you're a professional, even if you're a professional, let's say, oh, you've been offered a job in Japan. You have a
Yeah,
job offer in Japan. Well, okay, you know the language, but you have to know how to behave yourself in Japan.
it's a good example. It's a good example. I saw one subject about this topic for culture, language, and the process English
Mhm.
learning,
Yeah.
and is necessary connect the two terms.
Yes, yes. And I mean, once you are involved in that process of clear content language integrated learning, once you are in that process, then you learn and dig more, you search more on a topic, you deepen in the knowledge of a specific topic, jargon, subject, okay? And
Yeah,
then you can see that you are kind of acquiring the language, that the language is part of your way of thinking, that the language is yours, and your reaction is in that language, and the books you read are in that language. So you can see the process, the learning, the cognitive process when you are acquiring a language. You are internalizing the language. It is part of you. You read in English, you speak English, you search in English, either on a book or on the net. You get the information in English, which can be your second language. Um, I mean, regardless whether it is your second language or not, you are in it and you are in that process because you make it yours. It's part of you.
okay. Thank you, Armando. And the the next question, and to finish for the interview, is do you take into account culture in strategies? Do you use in your English class?
Mhm.
Can you give me some examples?
Okay. Yes, of course, definitely. Um, I wouldn't be teaching English if if I if I didn't get to know about the culture, what the core. Um, and I guess I love teaching English because of the variety of cultures that we have in some English-speaking countries. Okay, and I'm very much interested in it. Pronunciation-wise, the way people from Jamaica speak to the way people from America speak. Okay, so I can teach how how this can be seen from the other end, right? And I can say, for example, yes, you can say biscuits or you can say cookies, or why the Australian call British promise, okay? Or why people from Manchester can say, hey, why am man? Or even Scottish people, right? Rather than, hello, how are you doing? I beg your pardon. So, uh, how to use language, being formal or informal, can be another example, okay? Um, just the pronunciation, for example, at water, Americans say water, right? And then
There are
I
there
have,
are there are that any words different in British and American
yes,
English.
for example, I had dinner yesterday. I had rice and chicken for dinner, whereas American would say, I ate chicken and rice for dinner, okay? Or the same as, okay, I'm going to have a shower in 5 minutes. American would say, I'm going to take a shower. So these variations in the languages can be examples of, uh, and British people say, I'm going to have a shower, it's not because they want to be different to American. It's because that's the way they do it. That's their culture. That's their English. Okay. And so this is incredibly important. Using the culture, the way people you walk, and the way people act, the way people react, the way people behave, the standard of living, the way of life. It's just, I mean, the clock. I mean, to be punctual, to be on time for a meeting. Um, wow, you have to be aware of it. Okay, and in some cultures we don't get to see that. Not only in American, or I'm sorry, not only in English language, but in any other language, Spanish as well. It happens to be the same. But yes, of course, pronunciation, different words, variety of words, the use of the language, tea time. Um, for example, the summer solstice has just begun. It was just a few days ago. The longest day in the northern hemisphere. It happened to be in the 21st or 22nd of June, around that day. So these influences the way the way we act. This influences how people behave. That accounts for people's behaviors as well. So definitely, I do use it. I do use it a lot. With a big screen, for example, the British movie production different to Hollywood, and then again we have some Australian soap operas and other productions as well. India, for example, great. They're doing a great job. And so this is all together, and this is a combination of uh, what you like, or what people need to know, so people can understand this world in a better way, in a wider perspective.
Okay, thank you, Armando, for this interview.
Mhm.
Thank you, tutor and partners. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.